different, man. What'd you think? What'd you think of it?
I liked it. I thought it was a nice change of pace. We did a masterclass this week of Lewis Hamilton. He teaches a winning mindset. And actually, what's cool is that today, when we're recording this, Lewis actually won the Grand Prix today in England.
That is awesome.
He won today in Silverstone. Most people that are around pop culture know who Lewis Hamilton is. He is, at this point, probably the best driver ever in racing, Formula One. Again, don't quote me on this. I'm not a professional analyst of Formula One news. I actually started. Have you seen any races? Have you seen Formula One at all?
Not enough. I mean, to be honest with you, I've seen clips of Formula One, that's why it was an interesting pick that you wanted to do Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, he's a top tier athlete, which is cool. Like, I would learn about any sport, like when you're learning about the top tier athlete. But learning his story was really interesting, because I think even if I don't follow Formula One, I could draw a lot of lessons from him. I wanted to ask you what you thought, how that conversation went with Masterclass and Lewis Hamilton. Because Masterclass goes around and looking for people that do excel in certain areas. Like, if you cook very well, you might get a call from them or your team. Hey, you want to do a Masterclass with us? But how cool was it that they called him up and he's like, you could teach us how to do Formula One. He's like, nah, that's not really what I do. What I do is what I win. That's what I want to teach.
I didn't even connect that point, but you're right. Like, what are you teaching? Oh, I'm a winner. I'll teach you how to win. Dang, that's pretty legit. No, I recommend, first of all, shout out to Huab. So Huab, he's the one that got me into Formula One. Huab is one of our friends. Shout out to him, because he got me into Formula One. Like, when we were roommates, at the end of when I was about to get married, we were the last 6 months. I started watching Formula One because of him. He'd wake up early or super late. He'd watch it. Yep. But then Netflix brought out the documentaries Drive to Survive. And those, man, they did a great job. I will say that now the newest seasons are not that good, but the first couple seasons, they did a great job in creating a narrative in the racing. Because just turning onto the TV and watching them race, unless you completely understand the sport, there's not a lot of drama for you. You're just like, okay, well, yeah, they're running around this circuit for over 2 hours. I mean, it's intense, but there's not a narrative for you. Like for example, in soccer, to really enjoy soccer, you need a team, right? You gotta know the team, who are the players, who's your favorite. That adds more enjoyment. So with Formula One, that Drive to Survive, I added that spice for me to okay, I know who the drivers are, what teams have bigger budgets and this or that. And it just added a lot. So definitely recommend that show if you haven't seen it, especially the first couple seasons. They get not as good with time, but yeah. So we're talking about Lewis Hamilton. He teaches a winning mindset, which is pretty awesome. I think I really enjoyed this because, again, for myself, I was aware of, again, who Lewis Hamilton is. I've been watching Formula One for maybe the past 3.5 years, probably COVID to now. I mean, at the time, he was just winning everything. So I knew who he was. He was the guy to beat. But I didn't know any of his story, really, besides whatever was shared during the live coverage of the race. That's all I knew. So this kind of made me appreciate him a little bit more, even though I always can acknowledge an amazing athlete. But it adds a lot more validity to all his winning, right? Because he didn't have an easy route, so to speak, or the conventional route that a lot of these Formula One drivers have. So that was cool to see. So maybe you want to get started with it? Do you have some quotes?
One of the things that I would want to introduce or kind of start with is who he is or where he came from, right? Because I think you're right. With Formula One, as well as with other sports that you're not naturally into, it's usually just, we could say ignorance, right? You don't understand it. You don't know what it takes to be in this competition. You don't know what's between the teams, how long of a history they have. You know, like when you see Real Madrid versus Barcelona in soccer, you kind of know of that competition between the two teams because you love soccer. Well, that
Yep.
same thing is at play with these brands and Mercedes and all these other
Mhm.
Ferrari. So when you get into that, I think you can really enjoy it. And, you know,
Mhm.
to understand Lewis Hamilton and his winning mindset, you need to begin with, you know, him being a little kid, right? He said something interesting. He said he didn't like school, but early on when his dad, you know, bought him a go-kart, he started doing very well, competing with people that were much older than him, and it became kind of like his escape, right? When he was inside of a race with the helmet on, he wasn't, you know, a young kid of color in the UK, which predominantly there's no kids of color. There's less. At least that's the impression you're getting through listening to his story. At least in his schools, he was different, you know, and he stood out.
Yeah.
But when he was racing with that helmet on, it was like his escape pod, and he just became someone else. And I think when you see those beginnings, and then you see where he ended up, you can like be like, oh wow, this is such a cool story. And then if you're watching him race, you're not just going for a country, or you're going for a person. Like, oh, I want this guy to win. Like, I want him to do well.
Yeah. And his story was fascinating to me. Something I didn't know was that he started with racing remote control cars. And I thought that was like interesting because like it was like a like a cousin, so to speak, of what he ultimately ended up doing, right? It's still racing.
Yeah.
But he said that his dad noticed his interest and his skill. And then his dad started working 4 jobs to support this dream. So I was going to ask you, because I thought it was interesting that, you know, his dad noticed his skills, how good he was, and how much he loved it. So then he basically fed the fire. His dad tried his best to feed this fire.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, like, do you think that all children have something they truly are interested in? Or do you think Lewis was like a unique talent that was like nurtured in this specific way? Um, or do you think everyone has something that they just really love and good at?
You know what? I think you have to give a shout out to his dad. He did a great job, right? Because
Yeah.
he didn't say, "Oh, you're gonna be a Formula One racer." Like that's not how it started. He didn't put on this dream on him and this pressure of this is what you're gonna become because I wanted to become this and now you're gonna do it. He didn't do that. It started with something that probably all of us experience, no matter, you know, our childhood. I hope we got to play with cars. We got to play with, you know, eventually
Mhm.
maybe a cousin of ours or somewhere. Maybe even we had a remote control car. But then
Mhm.
his dad noticed, oh, he has great eye to hand coordination. Oh, that could translate to a couple of different things. But, you know, I'm going to get him a go kart. He seems to be enjoying this. And then when he got into the go kart, that's when he saw, oh, wow, this could be something else. And he ended up
Mhm.
spending a lot of money because, I mean, he makes it a point to let us know that F1 is it's not a cheap sport. It's not like soccer or some other sports that you can just play with the
No,
ball, or
no.
like it is very expensive to participate
Super
in these
expensive.
competitions. And, you know, eventually he got a sponsorship, but that wasn't the case from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to both his dad, right, of seeing not only his son's potential but believing in his dreams. Because I mean, if you really think about it, like I don't know, we don't have children, right? But like imagine your child like, no, like I really love this and I want to pursue Formula One, let's say. At some point
Yeah.
that conversation was the case. Maybe not immediately, but at some point.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do as a dad, right? Like
Yeah.
especially in his case that, you know, racism was prominent and it's not a cheap sport. It's not like for example, let's say we had a son and he wants to say, or a daughter that wants to play soccer. That's a little. It's still expensive actually, but not as expensive as investing in a go kart and fixing that up, mechanics. You know, you crash it, you got to fix it every time. Like that's a lot of
Yeah.
money. So his dad worked really hard, right? Working 4 jobs to support this dream. That speaks volumes to me because like a lot of parents, you know, they because of what society deems as a normal pathway, right? Oh, like go to college, do this. You know, they could hear their children's dreams, even though you can see their talent, and maybe like hold back because
Yeah.
maybe fear of
Mhm.
failure or for whatever reason. So It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, what's unique about this is I think it's how they say you got to play the cards you're dealt. He wasn't dealt the perfect card, the perfect deck, the perfect hand, we could say.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't have the money for this to be something comfortable. Like his dad made a lot of sacrifices in order for him to be able to race and compete. But he matched that effort. Like he never, took it for granted. He worked really hard. His dad made him work really hard. Like I think he mentioned that he never got out the bed after 7 a.m. Like he was always doing something, working on either his mindset, his knowledge, or his fitness. Like he really made this, a great goal. And I think he also explains that he is aware that not everyone had that father figure that he had, that was kind of there backing him up and supporting him in his dream and his passion. A lot of kids sadly don't have that. And I think that's something that's unique, as you get to the later episodes in his masterclass, where you kind of see his heart and how much he cares about the young generations. Like he goes back and has foundations, and he tries to help young kids, especially those that come from, unfortunate backgrounds where they struggle with something that makes them maybe different. He tries to help them have some role model. Like he becomes that. Like instead of just, oh, I made it, I'm good, I'm out. Like that's not me anymore. I'm not someone that's struggling or wanting to achieve a dream. He still remembers that he could have, things would have played out differently. He could have never made it anywhere, like in F1 especially.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, we just talked about like our last episode about like on the psychology of money, right? Like how just like a lot of variables out of people's controls work for them or against them. And in Lewis's case, like there were a lot of things against his circumstance, but he did have a really hardworking father figure who was willing to support his dream and help him.
Yeah.
But what did Lewis have to do? Well, take advantage of that father figure and learn from him and be dedicated, right? Because it is it's a lifestyle. Like it's your life now. Like it's racing is your life. Yeah. And you can take off your hat and like respect that. I wanted to ask you though, like, do you think his dad, do you think it was his whole motivation was just love? Or do you think, because his dad was a mechanic, do you think this was like maybe even his dream a little bit? And once he saw that his son was interested, he was like, awesome, let me just live through him, like vicariously through him,
I mean, in all the episodes, I don't get to know his dad that much. All I see is some of the decisions he made. So I don't know, maybe he was interested in F1 growing up. But it seems like his dad was a great motivator, like someone backing him up. But I always get the sense that the one that really wanted this was Lewis. Like he was the one that wanted to be. As a matter of fact, I think there was, after like a tough race, under the episodes where he discussed failure, he mentions that it was a pretty tough moment in his young career, and he was considering to give up. And even his dad told him that he was okay for him to give up. And he went on a long run, pushed farther than he'd ever pushed. And then that's when he kind of like learned, maybe I've been holding back. Like maybe I haven't been trying as much as I could be. And, it propelled his career even more forward. So I don't know. I think that does happen a lot. But I think in this case, Lewis Hamilton's the one that actually wanted it.
Yeah. No, I probably agree. I think, there's probably always going to be something that you're just like super happy that your son or daughter is happy and pursuing their dreams, and maybe that you couldn't, right? But whatever that dream was, right? But just seeing that you could help your son or daughter achieve that dream is beautiful. You mentioned a little bit earlier about how Lewis mentioned that when he put on his helmet, he compared it as a cape and he became unstoppable. Do you think that's like a normal circumstance that we use like external things to motivate us or give us power? Do you think that's common, or do you think Lewis was able just to, because of his circumstance, use this helmet as that shield to just focus on racing?
Yeah. No, I think, and actually that's what I wanted to discuss next, because I want to take this beyond just F1, right? If you are interested in this masterclass and you want to get the subscription, it's not just if you're interested in F1. Like it's not because you like Lewis Hamilton, you can listen to this. whatever it is that you like to do. If you like to play tennis for fun, if you like to play the guitar for fun, learning some of these lessons is going to kind of help you or propel your desire or whatever it is. It could be your career, it could be just your hobby, into that next level of where you start getting some wins, we could say, right?
Yeah.
And I think when in the episode where he says at one with the machine, he explained something that I never knew. Like, an F1 car is different than a car. Like, an F1 is tailored towards him. It's like when you get a tailored suit, that's what that is. Like, every single piece of this machine is for him, and it's helping him, his size, and he just shapes his environment in order to succeed more. And I think when he talks about, like I think you mentioned this point of the cape where he escaped, it's going to be very different for everyone, right? Someone that loves writing, maybe that's their escape. The time that they're just journaling and then just writing their thoughts down and doing that, and it helps them avoid kind of what's going on around them. And that's going to help them a lot. For just someone else, it could be running. Like, I know people that can run 10, 12, 13 miles by accident. Like, they just wake up one day. That's not me. That's not my space.
They just wake up and 5 miles away from their house. Like, how do I get there?
I think it is important and, essential for parents and even kids to find whatever they do enjoy doing. And it sounds very cliche. Everyone says find your passion. I think it could be even like, avoid finding your passion, but just find something that you enjoy doing. Like, like in his case, he enjoyed winning. Like, he enjoyed winning these race cars, and he found out that he was great at it, and he kept adding to that.
I enjoy being amazing. I enjoy being amazing.
And for everyone's different, but if you find that, you can get in that zone. He says that top athletes get into this zone where, like, everything just kind of flows. The senses are heightened, and they can see everything going around, and they do great stuff. And I mean, I think that's one of the lessons that we can get if we're trying to win more, is like, find out what we like. If I tried to do F1, I'd probably give up way before Lewis Hamilton, because I probably don't like it enough, right?
Yeah.
Same with everyone that's listening. Like, there must be something that you enjoy enough where you can take the beat downs. Because, I mean, he said it. Failure is 100% necessary for greatness. Whatever journey you're taking on, you're going to end up failing. And if you don't like it, you're going to give up at that point.
Yeah, and that's such an awesome quote. And he does give advice, though, because, like, it's easy for us to say, like, oh yeah, like you mentioned, like, it's cliche. Oh yeah, find your passion, find what you enjoy. But he gives advice of, like, oh, how do you find what you enjoy? And I mean, again, it's such a simple advice. It's just to try everything. Like, try anything. You tried it once, and you were happy when in that moment. Maybe try a little bit more, commit a little bit more. So try different things until you stumble upon something that you don't mind failing at. And I think that's the key, right? Like you mentioned, because that was like my favorite quote. Like, how the importance of failure in progression and having a winning mindset.
Which sounds counterintuitive, right? Like, he's gonna teach you how to win. Like, I don't want to fail. Like, who wants to fail?
Yeah.
But if you actually want to win, you are gonna face failure, because the only way to not fail is if you're only trying something that you're already good at, and you're only trying it on a very surface level. Because even if you're good at playing the guitar, let's say you're naturally talented, you're better than most people. If you actually, look around, you're going to find someone that's better than you. Like, you are. Yeah. So the only way to not fail, to not lose a competition, to not lose a talent show, is to only compete with people that are not going to be better than you. But what's the fun of that? Like, you're never actually going to grow and become better at whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the keys that he mentioned, like, not only to challenge yourself, but put yourself in a room where people challenge you as well. And I think that's the key with even Formula One, because, like, everyone wants to win. Everyone's are these amazing athletes, but that pushes everybody, right? Even though you want to beat each other, but the reality that someone wants to beat you motivates you. Like, well, to beat this person behind me, I have to wake up earlier. I have to exercise more. I got to better my health, whatever, right? Whatever these variables are to better yourself. But let's say you didn't have competition, and then it was, like you mentioned, it was just easy. You're just in this room where you just keep winning. It's like playing soccer with like, once you're an adult with like 10-year-olds, like, you know, you can beat them. Yeah, you can beat them. But what satisfaction is there to beat these kids? Like there isn't really satisfaction.
Another two things to take from this episode, because I think this was probably the biggest episode for me in this masterclass, is the episode number 5 on failure, where he says that he constantly analyzes his failures. And I feel that's a very uncomfortable thing to do. Like, and he has, you know, he's in a unique position where he has a videotape, you know, recording of exactly where he went wrong. He probably missed a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, and all of that added up to him being, instead of first place, maybe third place or fifth place. And he's constantly analyzing them and, you know, looking at the little details and what he could improve, what he could do better next time. Do you feel like that's where most people go wrong when they, let's say, whatever they're pursuing, whether it's acting or podcasting or whatever it is that they want to do? It's uncomfortable to like go over your own work and go over maybe your failures. Do you feel like that's a common habit, or you think that's probably like something unique to him in this sport, or like people in F1? Like, what do you think about that?
I think it's a unique quality for winners.
For winners?
Yeah, like, no, that's what I mean. Like, if like those who were amazing and great, like he mentioned, like that failure is part of greatness, is those who constantly said, this isn't good enough and I can be better. But to know how to be better is to acknowledge in those mistakes that you made. And we actually talked about this pre-recording. So this can just play back right back at you, you know, like, you know, we're starting this project, this podcast, and thank you for everyone's listening. But it is uncomfortable for us, right? It's not easy to listen to yourself. But the thing is, like, we got to listen to ourselves to see, okay, maybe I talk too much in this area. I can maybe I can shorten it. I mean, how can we improve if we don't self-analyze? But I do think most people don't self-analyze, because by self-analyzing, you're acknowledging your failure. Most people try to just move on from the failure. Like, okay, I failed. What's, tomorrow? Let's try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if you analyze that failure, not only can you try again tomorrow, but do 1% better than you did the day before. And if you just do that, you'll eventually just be amazing.
Yeah. What's interesting is that people seem to constantly do this with others. Like, when someone fails at whatever they're doing, I mean, think of the people that look at sports. Like, I was just watching the Euro, like, in Copa America a couple of days back. I mean, the commentators are great at knowing what went wrong. Like, they're know exactly.
Messed up, bro. They're like, no, le pegó la pelota muy fuerte. I'm like, how do you know, bro? Get out of here. Like,
but it's totally different and more difficult to do it on yourself. Like, if you're the one that was there, if you're the one that did something wrong, it takes a lot of honesty, a lot of, being humble in a way, enough to say, okay, I messed up here. I could have done this better, done that better, and I can improve in this area. And I think you're right. I think that's the best way you could have put it. It is something common, or it is something unique to people that win. They need to be able to analyze the failure.
Yeah.
Another thing he mentioned in this episode was enjoying it. Like, even if you fail, he said, enjoy it. Like, even if you didn't get the result you wanted, okay, learn to enjoy that. Learn, if you didn't get first place but you got third, hey, enjoy that. Like, you can still learn from it, but learn to enjoy those moments as well.
Yeah, because you can't have like this absolute mindset of this is the only thing. Because again, it involves like happiness to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
Like, only if I reach this goal, then I will be happy. And that's not what he's pushing here. He's saying to be a winner, you got to enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm.
But by enjoying the journey, it's going to be difficult, and acknowledging those difficulties will get you to that goal. And he just had so many interesting points to think about. And just to your point, or something to add that you mentioned a little bit earlier, was that I think a lot of people, it's easier to judge others because I feel like it's like it's their way to making themselves feel good. I think it says more about themselves than what's actually going on in the circumstance, right? Because most of these commentators, not to like hate on them either, right? But most of them are either not failed, but players that didn't do amazing and that looked for a different avenue, and good for you. But they're like hating on these people where that they're there, they're making it, you know? And I think it takes a lot of vulnerability to take that action, right? Like taking, for example, in our case, we'll just use our example.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of vulnerability, right? Like we have friends watching us potentially, hopefully. But it takes vulnerability because people will hate on it. It's the reality. Hate on it, like why are they doing it? Yada, yada. But again, it takes courage. It takes courage to do something you're enjoying. And the only way to win is to ignore that. He gave the advice to use failure as fuel. Let me look it up here. Like use failure as fuel and turn it into motivation for happiness, or something like that. Let me see. Where'd you write it down? Está bien salado, no lo encuentro. Anyway, he basically says that that to use this people's negativity, right? Negativity and maybe this judgment as his motivation to just keep on going. Like turn those negative comments as something positive. And actually, his father encouraged him, especially when he was younger, when he was getting a lot of judgment because of his race, basically. And no doubt it affected him emotionally. His dad's advice was, like show it on the track. Like don't say anything rude to them. Don't fight fire with fire, but show them on the track. So I think anyone that has a goal or a passion about something and is scared of doing it, like don't let the judgment of others stop you, but just prove it by action. Like okay, people are hating it now, but this podcast is gonna be amazing, like we're gonna keep trying until it's good, I'll go see, that's all we can do.
Yeah. I think that speaks to the discipline that he developed. One of his episodes is on self-discipline. In order to be an F1 driver, you need a lot of discipline. Like a single mistake or like a lapse of focus of a couple of seconds could result in, your team losing a lot of money because these cars are expensive, or you losing the race, or maybe even potentially losing your life. Because, they're traveling at really fast speeds. And self-discipline, it's not just on actions, but can also be on emotions, right? Someone tells you something that you don't like, someone says a little mean comment. It could be something that isn't even mean, but you interpret it as mean. Like he gave an example of someone could tell you, hey, why are you wearing a green shirt?
Yeah.
Maybe it was a question. Maybe you're just wondering if there's something you're celebrating or something that has to do with green, but you took it as they're making fun of your shirt and it messes with you. And then, it shows in whatever that you're doing. The same thing with us, right? If you want to practice self-discipline, one of the areas that you need to practice it is regulating your emotions, controlling those emotional responses, and not doing something out of, he says a phrase, stop being reactive and being more proactive. I feel like a lot of people, and I think probably in his sport more than anything, react to whatever's going on. He, draws a line and says, okay, you don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive. You want to be looking ahead and making decisions based on that, instead of, oh, this is what's happening, I'm going to react to it.
Yeah, no, and I think that chapter of self-discipline, he speaks about health as well. I think it's a great, again, if you're someone who, like myself, that is trying to be better with their health, can be like a motivating, are they called chapters? I don't know, section to analyze.
Episode?
But because episode. He has specifically has like a vegan lifestyle and it's worked for him. But he basically encourages to find something that works for you. But he does talk about how important self-discipline is to any progress with any goal you're setting. He says that diet is 70% of the progress in regards to like health and exercise. I don't know. It's like it motivated me. Like, man, I gotta be better. I gotta be better. I gotta work on these things to better my health.
Maybe if you want to follow his practical advice, you can do what he does with sweets. Did you like that? Like,
Oh,
he
bro, I
yeah.
love that. Yeah. Say, I mentioned it. I wrote it down actually. But yeah, mention it.
He mentions that, I mean, he really likes sweets, and I mean, everyone. I love sweets too.
Does.
Like, I feel like
Yeah,
everyone
everybody.
does. Or if you don't like sweets, you like something that's not very healthy, so you try to avoid it. Whatever it is, whatever
Chips,
you like.
hot Cheetos.
Well, for him, it's sweets. So he says that in order to practice self-discipline, he puts a bag of sweets in his gym bag, or he always carries a bag of sweets around him, but he doesn't consume them. He doesn't let it have power over him. And then over time, it becomes like, oh, it's not really a thing. I think that's great advice for me, because I feel like even if I can be good, like for example, we've been trying to do better about not bringing sweets when we do groceries. Like trying. Not try. I should emphasize that word, trying.
Trying.
But we have been doing better about doing snacks. But man, if I go out and there's a free donut out there,
eat it.
I eat it, right? It's an opportunity, and I'll never see another free donut in my life. Like, that's it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
You combine sweets with not spending money, and I'm in. Like,
yeah.
But him, when he has it around him, it loses that power. And I feel like if I do that, it might work for me too. Like, if I learn to have something around me, and instead of giving in to my natural impulse of, oh, I'm gonna have one, oh, I'm gonna have another one, and before you know it, the bag's gone. I know that I can't have any. Like, it's accessible, it's near me, but I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I think I liked his method of all these goals he's setting. He basically just, his biggest competitor was himself. So he like challenges himself. Like that was like his challenge. Like, I'm gonna, to be better at not eating sweets, I'm gonna carry these sweets, but I'm gonna challenge myself to not have them. And I think I work the same. Like, I think for whatever, I don't know if it's just the inner competitiveness nature in me or in us that just helps for some reason. You're like, no, I don't want to lose. Like, not losing, like, I don't know, maybe we're prideful. I don't know what it is, but I think it would help. I think that I do that, but it's Lynette says I have to be better at this. Like, I have a weird habit, and again, I don't recommend this habit, but I go to the gym, and we go to the gym, and when I'm doing my cardio session of like running, I don't drink water until I'm done running. Like, my challenge is I have to earn my water. And it's really weird, but it motivates me because I get really thirsty when I'm running. And I'm like, no, well, I got to make my mile. Once I get my mile, I've earned my water. And it helps, though. It helps me to like not stop. So I think something like that can be really useful.
Yeah. That's a funny system you have. You gotta earn your water. I think you got that out of a Gatorade commercial somewhere, man.
Did I? Probably, bro.
I think so.
A little 9-year-old me just being. Oh,
you gotta earn with sweat, right? You have to sweat before you can have the Gatorade. I think that was a commercial at some point.
Was it? Oh my gosh. Man, I did not know that. Yeah. I did not know that. But yeah, but it's helped me. And I think he used his competitive nature for his own goal setting. And something that was interesting to me also is like something that you don't really hear that commonly. He encouraged to set goals that are basically impossible to reach. And I found that really fascinating because usually, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I've heard other like TED Talk speakers or, people who try to encourage others or motivate others. They usually recommend to have like short-term goals, medium-term goals, and if possible, long-term goals. But basically, they're like set goals you could attain. Yeah. And his mindset is like, no, set the goal you think you can attain. And use it as motivation to then attain it. Because if you push yourself to attain this crazy goal, then maybe you'll do the extra work to actually attain it. How did you perceive that? Like, I thought it was fascinating that he recommended that.
I personally think it works for him just because of already his quality of being a top athlete, right? If you and me try to set an impossible goal, it might be discouraging. You might not even start, right? It's too hard. I do think there's wisdom in both. Like, there's wisdom in setting short-term, medium-term and long-term goals and realistic goals. I've heard that before, set realistic goals. I do like a mix of realistic and impossible. Like obviously, I don't think Usain Bolt is out there trying to run at the speed of light like that. I don't think he's trying to do that. I don't think he's.
¿Sabes qué? I'm gonna beat this switch of a light.
I don't think he's putting that pressure on himself, but he's probably thinking, "Hey, maybe I can do 100 meters in sub 6 seconds." I don't know. I think that seems impossible to me. Maybe he's thinking he could do that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to achieve something like amazing, right? Because if you're looking at the roster of the fastest people that ever run, I'm using that example of running, and you try to match that, even succeeding is only going to be matching what they've already done. So maybe it's better to set something that has not been done, like something that seems impossible. And I think maybe that's where he's trying to get at. Like maybe especially for Lewis Hamilton, it seems, at least of what I've learned about him this week, you probably are ahead of me. You know more about him as an athlete and his, track record. It seems like he's in a league of his own. He's competing with himself, right? There's really no one at his level, like how much he's won. Like, yeah, other people beat him from time to time, but his track record is probably, very different. So since he's competing with himself, he needs to look at things a lot differently than someone that probably growing up is training to be an F1 driver and has him as the model. Like, he's the goal, right? Like, if I was trying to be a better soccer player, I could look at Lionel Messi and that could be an amazing goal because he's at the top, right? I mean, that's more of an opinion to some people, but
that's an opinion, bro.
It's a fact.
Sammy's gonna throw a rock at you, bro. No, I see your point, and I see your point. I do think, again, just to remember what the themality of this masterclass is the masterclass is how to have a winning mindset. I do agree, though, like to have a winning mindset, a shortcut to make progress in regards to this is having these crazy goals that maybe people don't think you can achieve, because only then will you keep challenging yourself to hopefully reach that goal. But he also mentions that, like just because you have this crazy goal doesn't mean that you can't also enjoy the journey of trying to get to that goal. So I do think that there's a balance, right? Like you mentioned, like they shouldn't dissuade you from not trying at all, right? And I think like that's easy to do, right? Especially like, let's use health, for example. Like if you want to lose weight and you want to lose, you have this like actor or this sports figure as your model. You're like, I want to look like him in 30 days. Well, that's probably impossible, or you're going to kill yourself reaching it.
Yeah.
But it maybe if you made it like more broader, like I want to look like him or her within 2 years or a year, then maybe it's more attainable, right? Maybe it's more attainable. And let's say you don't hit it, but you trying to pursue it, maybe you get pretty close. Maybe in 2 years you hit it,
Yeah.
But if your bar is only losing a pound and you're like, woo, I did it, and then that's it. You go back with your bad eating habits, then what good was it? Really?
Yeah. So talking about the winning mindset, and this is going to be going a little off the masterclass itself, which is fine, right? In this format, we're getting ideas from books or different, classes, courses, and we'll see what else we come up with. But we're taking it into more applicable terms, like things that we can apply. I think in order to have a winning mindset, it's very important to get rid of a losing mindset or a loser's mindset. What do you think that is? Like, if you had to just give a description of what some of us could get stuck in that losing mindset, what would it be? Like, based on what you've learned from the class, but also just on your experience and kind of what you think.
I mean, there's like this class has multiple episodes. I think to have a losing mindset, there's probably it's multifaceted. I think the biggest thing I feel like is a losing mindset that I try to fight consistently is the opinion of others. I think nothing's wrong with people having an opinion, and even what's the word when they give you like good advice, like upbuilding advice? What is that called? Like
constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism, like that. I'm all for that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
You should take that to get better. When people are just throwing shade at you for whatever reason, and you listen to that shade or that,
Yeah.
judgment, I think that's a losing mindset, because you're allowing external people, external factors to control your enjoyment of life. Like it's your thing. Like, what is someone else's opinion? Like, you're the one that's going to enjoy it. Let's say you want to make an amazing sandwich, but someone says like, "Oh, you're never going to make it." Even in their opinion, what does it matter? Like, you're the one that's going to enjoy it at the end. And let's say it's not as good, but you got almost there and you enjoy it. I just feel like a lot of people that have, especially creative passions and things they like to pursue, they hold themselves back because of what others think. And I think that's the biggest. Do I think it's permanent? And I'm not claiming those people are losers either. I don't want to go off to that point either. But I do think it's a losing mindset. I think if you keep on that path, you'll never reach whatever goals you're trying to reach. So I think that's probably the first one I can think of, is allowing others' negativity to influence your actions now.
Yeah. I think you hit on a point that I wanted to touch, right? Because I think when you pay too much attention to the exterior, right, you could say, "Oh, I can't," and then you talk about an exterior reason. You talk about something in your childhood, something that's completely outside of your control, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you might have an aspect of truth in whatever statement you make, right? I can't because I grew up poor. I can't because of this. I can't because of that. If you constantly do that, you can get stuck in this rhythm of life where you don't, you're never able to win because you don't want to risk, right? You never lose either. You never. It's like you never like do something that people make fun of you for. You never like. You always play it safe, right? You're always in that mid-term of you wanted. Let's say you want to try something, but you didn't do it because this or that, right? And I think that's how people get stuck in that losing mindset. And I think when you talk about like listening to others, it's funny how it can stop you from doing things that you never even tried, right? Like, it can stop you from even trying something, which is already, you might think, oh, it's not losing, that's just not trying. But the result is the same, right? Like, you don't even get there. Like, it's like not even competing. You're not even going to be able to do it.
I would argue it's worse. I would argue it's worse. Because at least trying, like, let's say, for example, I'm terrible at art. Like, I'm not good at painting. I'm not good at that. But let's say I've never tried it, and I just assume that because people say I'm not good at art, I never try. At least trying, you can see, you can actually compare with yourself and see like, oh, I am my own, competition. Instead of, and I know now what I feel towards certain pursuit compared to not knowing at all,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that's a great point too. And I mean, the second point I wanted to make to anyone listening about a losing mindset is, even Lewis Hamilton mentioned the easiest thing to do when you're doing something hard is to give up. So if you stop yourself from doing hard things or doing something you wanted to do because of what people say or whatever reason, even if you never experience failure, you're failing because you're not even trying. And I think if you want to stop yourself from having that losing mindset and you want to get back to winning, you have to not give up. And I think that's the easiest, that to me, that's the summary of not having a losing mindset in whatever you do, is not giving up, right? If you want to play golf better, if you don't give up, you're probably going to get there. But if you give up in the beginning, you're never actually going to see it. You're never going to see the result of hard work paying off for you.
And I think what you're leaning on goes a lot with what he was saying in the beginning of these episodes, where he said the importance of having role models. And one of the role models, no doubt, was his dad. But he also mentioned Muhammad Ali. And one of the things that I appreciated, something that I've been working on for a long time, is that he mentioned how he loved how Muhammad Ali always had positive affirmative words. Like, in interviews, he was always saying, I was gonna win. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. And I think honestly that's already like a head start in the race of winning. I truly think that it's like mind over matter. You know, like it's super cliche, but it's super
Yeah.
true. I think a lot of people hold themselves back with negative words.
Yeah.
Like, and like you mentioned, like I can't because of this, I can't because of that. Even though there's some legit like logic behind it, but don't let those circumstances define you. You know, like
Yeah.
okay, I can't. You know that did happen. But what can I do? You know, like
Mhm.
I think that is a secret right there. Like having positive, affirmative words, like this will do well. Like I'm gonna ace that test. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get that job. Because I think once you say I'm not good enough, once you say I'm not gonna get that job. You're already losing. You're
Yeah.
going into you go into that interview, let's say, losing. Like
Yeah.
the vibe is gonna be off. You're gonna do things that somehow push you to lose. But if you
Yeah.
go in there with a positive mindset, like, no, I got this job. Like, why should I work for you guys? Like, like you have this more confidence in you. And I think you reach those goals faster. So I really love that about positive words
Yeah.
and how self-belief is key to be a winner.
One of my last thoughts I had on
Mm-hmm.
learning from Lewis Hamilton is how he seems to have a diverse range of interests. Like I don't know if you noticed
Oh
that.
yeah, it's
That's
true.
kind of unique to him. Like he likes to play tennis. He likes he does fashion shows from time
Fashion
to
Week,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
also he likes to act. Apparently he's in the Cars movie. I haven't seen that new
yeah.
movie, the Cars 2 or Cars 3. He
Yep.
does
Yep,
he
me
does the
neither.
voiceover for one of the cars.
I
So
think he said he even did it in different languages too, right? Like
yeah,
different.
exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
And he also mentioned how he's not good at some of these things. Like for example, he likes to sing and do the play the guitar, and he's not great at those things, but he's still trying it. I
Mhm.
think that's what's unique about him, but also like something that we can bring into our world. Because I mean, Lewis Hamilton is maybe kind of, we could say in a way, lucky enough that what he loves to do and what he does for a living are the same thing. Like his hobby
Yeah.
and his career are the same thing. For most of us,
Yeah.
it's not, right? Like you and I,
Yeah.
we have work outside of this, and
Yeah.
we have other projects outside of this. But if you just do a diverse range of things, you can learn from all of those. Like for example, this
Mhm.
week, you and I learned from F1, something that we've never done. Like I've never
Yeah.
even seen a full race on TV. Like you at least have done that. Like I haven't even done
Yeah.
that, and we're able to extract lessons from that. Like the more
Yeah.
things you do, the more you can see different lessons from a different range of areas of your life. Like you can learn some lessons from playing soccer that you might apply, and it might be a little different than when you're playing basketball, but they're still gonna match and help you, and overall be helping you in kind of developing that ability to win. If you like, I heard a saying once that says, always do your bed in the morning. That's your first win. Even if
Oh
after you
yeah.
walk out the door you just get hit with life and you end up getting a lot of losses, at least you got that one win where you
That
organize
one
your bed
W.
in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I agree that it's that's why I love this project. And I think that especially now more than ever that we're just surrounded by information, like
Yeah.
I love that we have this setting to like, okay, let's talk about it. Like what did we learn? How can we apply it?
Yep.
I think that's something that we encourage all who's listening to do that. I think we're in a very much just we're just in an eating culture. We're just consuming, but
Yep.
nothing is being processed. Nothing. We're just listening to a million TikToks a day, or videos or reels.
Yeah.
Um, so I love that this project is putting us to kind of slow down and like, okay, what did we extract from this? Chew on
Yep.
this food. And hopefully encourage others to do the same. So if you liked this episode and this masterclass of Lewis Hamilton, hopefully by the time we launch this, we'll have a link on our show notes that you guys can probably get a discount code for masterclass. We truly loved it, loved the masterclass, and we'll probably do other episodes the same in regards to Lewis. We probably didn't do it justice. There's so many. There's I think 12 episodes.
Yep.
It's doable in a day. It's as long as a movie, so it's
Yep.
super doable in a day. but there's also longer ones. So like the advice Lewis Hamilton was giving through this was to try everything. Masterclass is a good way to do that because you get to learn through bakers and coffee makers, writers. So hopefully we'll do other figures of different subjects in regards to Masterclass. So any last closing notes in regards to Lewis Hamilton, Carlos?
I have nothing. I mean, I think he's a great individual. I learned about him for the first time this week, and I have a great admiration for some of those things he does. I think there's a lot our listeners can learn from him, and you're right. We probably didn't do it full justice, but that's why you gotta tune in, get that link, buy your own course, and and listen to the full thing.
And that's the thing, like, because ultimately this is our enjoyment, right? We're doing this to learn from each other, and we're not all the things that we're covering. We're not like a book club that we're just going to analyze or every little detail. We're just trying to find the things that we enjoyed, we resonated with, and hopefully whoever's listening is too. Actually, at the closing thought, he actually even mentioned this in this masterclass, is that your goal is to just influence one person, like in a positive way. It shouldn't be a large amount of people.
I thought that was a great point because, I mean, obviously Hamilton has a wide audience. Like he has probably a lot of millions of followers on Instagram where he can influence those people in whatever way he chooses to. And you might think, oh, I don't have that audience. I don't have that platform where I can, make a difference in people. But he mentioned, like, for example, he truly believes that being vegan is the way to go in life. Even if you don't agree, even if you and I don't agree on that. He mentions that if he can just help one friend become vegan, that's a win to him. So whether your voice covers millions of people, or just one person, use it. Like, if you have something good to say, something encouraging, something that other people can learn from, why not share it? And I think that's another thing behind our podcast as well, right? Like when we're going over these things, our goal is to share something positive that can help you in whatever it is that you're doing. Obviously, the most people that are listening to this are not going to go on and have an F1 career. That's not our
we're
goal.
not.
But they might get some of those lessons from an F1 driver and apply it to whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, and maybe just enjoy their job better, or maybe they set out creative goals to now reach them.
Yeah.
But again, if you truly want to enjoy the full scope of this class, we recommend to watch it. It's really, really, really good. And next week we're going to also. We're gonna do a little short podcast. We'll have 2 episodes releasing the following week. That includes a little snippet of how we got this podcast started, re-enrolled, maybe a little bit of who we are, and we don't think we're capable of doing this, but why we're doing it, and hopefully you guys enjoy that too. So thank you, moms that are listening, because that's probably the only people who are listening thus far. We appreciate you, brothers. Sam, he sent me a message that he enjoyed it, so shout out to them. And until next time, stay tuned.
See you next time.